afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us here on the Innovation Canada panel, where we're going to talk today about everything government can do to help your business. Apologies for the little delay there, but we'll get started right away. Just a couple things off the top I wanted to mention. One, I'm coming at you live from Ottawa, Gatineau, Canada. So from here, we'd just like to acknowledge that we're on the unceded lands of the Algonquin and Anishinaabe, and just encourage you to take a moment wherever you are to acknowledge the lands that you're on as well. Aussi, j'aimerais dire que aujourd'hui, notre session déroulera principalement en anglais, mais si jamais il y a des questions en français, n'hésitez pas à poser les questions dans la langue de votre choix. Aussi, tout le matériel qu'on va voir aujourd'hui sera disponible en français. Alors, si jamais il y a des choses que vous voulez voir, vous pouvez juste nous contacter. So without further ado, I'd like to hit off the top by just saying, I love that we're able to do this with you during the Pride season. So that's a fantastic time. And we just are excited to get to show you a little bit more of what Innovation Canada can have to offer your LGBTQ+ led business. So I'm here with a whole panel of my colleagues from different programs under Innovation Canada who can let you know what we have to offer. I'll start just a little bit to set the stage a bit, the context. Innovation Canada was born in 2017, and it was really an effort to do things differently by the government and to really meet businesses where they are. So you'll see all of the programs we have are quite different from traditional programs, and I'm hoping that you can find all the benefits in there for your businesses as well. So what you see on the screen in front of you is a great little visual option of all of the services we have under Innovation Canada. And we like to sort of separate those out into two arms. There's services, and we'll talk about those, and then there's the funding arms. So as we go through, you're going to hear from almost all of these folks today who can let you know what they have to offer. And the few folks who aren't with us, I'll fill you in on what they have to offer you. If we can go to the next slide. So yeah, we can skip over here. So we'll talk with our panelists, and then we'll have a Q&A after. So feel free to put your questions in the chat, and then we'll be able to answer them at the end of the presentation. We have a number of experts with us, including an innovation advisor whose primary job it is to offer advice to businesses as they're growing and scaling. So don't be afraid to sort of put questions in there that are direct. Just be mindful of the fact that it is a public forum, so don't share anything too sensitive to your business. We wouldn't want to get any sensitivities there. So we can keep going. So I'm going to kick it off with a little explanation of the overall tools that we offer before we get into a deep dive with my colleagues. So here in Innovation Canada, we offer two sort of global ways to find what you're looking for. One is an online tool that you can access anytime. It's called the Business Benefits Finder, available at innovation.canada.ca. And the other is sort of our in-person version, innovation advisors who are growth experts with plenty of their own entrepreneurial experience. We have 30 folks across Canada who are there to guide you. So let's talk a little bit about the Business Benefits Finder first, and then we'll get into some of the other pieces. So the Business Benefits Finder came about because we heard often from businesses, I know there are government supports out there, but it is impossible for me to find them. And so we wanted to meet that challenge with something that was quick and easy and interactive. And so that's how this was created. So the Business Benefits Finder brings together all of the federal supports as well as the provincial and territorial supports into one database. And then what you see is it's this really cool interactive screen that we're actually going to demo for you in 1 second that we kind of like to compare to Mad Libs, if anyone remembers what those are, where you choose your answers. And what it does is it filters all of those results. There's over 1,000 supports in our database, right down to what you need for your business specifically. So the advantage there being you don't have to comb through things that wouldn't apply to you. You'll get only the things that are really tailored to your business and only the things that are open and available. And we really try to ensure that the Business Benefits Finder has things you can get. So there's funding, advice, wage subsidies, money, partnership opportunities, tax credits, all of the stuff that you need to grow and scale your business. And then once we get into it too, I'll show you that now we've added some new features where you're actually able to save your searches and get notified by email of any changes to the programs that maybe you love or are interested in, so that you don't have to check back all the time. So let's maybe throw to a quick live demonstration, and I'll show you just how fast and easy it is so that you can go through it yourself. And then we'll just kind of hit on a few points as we go through. So we'll give Emily a chance here just in the background to get our live demonstration up and shared. And while we're getting there, usually when we do this demonstration, I just kind of share a little story just to give you an idea of what a business might look like going through it. So my story is that I'm a mother of 2 kids, and back when my kids actually went to school, which isn't happening here in Ontario at the moment, I had to pack lunches for them every day. And the plastics involved in the lunch and the lunch boxes were not my favorite from an environmental standpoint. So I developed a few prototypes working with folks for, biodegradable plastic containers that can be a little more eco-friendly. So we're going to go through with that story in mind, which isn't true, by the way, but should be. I should really develop that story and just kind of see what would come up for me. So we'll go through down here. So I'm looking for, and one of the new things in this first category here is when COVID-19 hit, we know that it's really impacted a lot of businesses. So we've made it easy to search just for those kind of supports, if that's what you're looking for, or to ignore the COVID supports because maybe you already have them, or to have both. So I'm going to say both here just so we can see everything. So my next question for COVID-19 support, I'm looking for, and that you can select as many as apply to you. So I'm going to say emergency loans because I had some stuff in the works that I need to pay off to keep my employees paid. I only have 2, but I still want to keep those guys in the payroll, and for grants. So just at the top there, the grants, yeah, and then you hit OK. And for other support, I need some funding. I definitely need some export advice. And I'm looking for wage subsidies right now. So you go through and you can see it's all pretty easy and interactive. So I've secured 50% of my funding that I'm looking for right now, and you can put in whatever applies to you. I'm looking for at least $1,500, which is small, I know. 1,500, yeah. And then up to $100,000 because I could really scale if I had the money. And my main goal is I'm still conducting a little R&D because I'm developing products on the side, but I also want to grow and expand my business. And that's it for me for now. So depending on what you put as your answers, different questions might pop up. This one is asking me a couple extra questions because I said R&D. If I hadn't said that, it would shoot me right down to the next set of questions. So I've got plans in the advanced manufacturing section. And I'm so I'm kind of at all the stages. I have some prototypes going. I have a couple of things in the market. So I'm going to say any. And you can always say any if you don't know sort of where you sit. And it'll just mean that you'll get more results to look through. So we're in Ontario, specifically the southern region, in the business of manufacturing. And we're in the plastics and there you go. Yeah. So this is where you can enter the details about your specific business. So I only have 2 employees. I'm incorporated. I'm in this for profit. And this is of interest to the LGBTQ+ community is that we just recently added the LGBTQ2+ filter to our audience filters. So what this will do was previously we just kind of had everything showing up, and we've added some new audiences. So for me, for example, I'm Canadian, I'm a woman, you choose as many as apply to you, and we'll choose the LGBTQ+ as well. And this will bring up everything that you would qualify for that's in a regular stream of support, as well as LGBTQ+ support. So it won't show you only those, but it will show you those plus. And finally, show me only the ones accepted clients. I'm not interested in the others for now. So we hit done, and then we go to our results. So this page is going to basically narrow everything down for you. We won't go through it in detail. You can do that in your own time, but the couple of things I wanted to show you. So the top part that you see, the gray box, that's called your story. So if you save this, you can do it a couple ways. You can just email yourself the link, which is the little green email kind of whooshing through button at the top. And when you email yourself the link, you'll just get the link to go back to the story. You don't have to create an account. It's just sort of a fast track back. Or you can save the story and sign up for notifications. And the reason that feature is really great is anytime you favorite a program, let's say we're going through here, we choose a couple that look really good. If anything changes with that program, if an application deadline is coming up, or if a brand new program that we've never heard of before is launched and it meets my criteria, I'm going to get an email right to my inbox. So it's kind of a nice set it and forget it feature where you don't have to be constantly checking back. We'll let you know if there's something new that would be great for your business. So let's take a really quick look at the funding, at the results here. So you'll see they're grouped. So the first grouping is the COVID-19 funding. And then if we go down to regular funding, for example, we'll just open up the IRAP tile, the one on the top right there, just to sort of see what it looks like. So here we've broken down the details of the program for you. And I think the benefit here, and that's what we're really trying to create for entrepreneurs, is that we've gone to the sites of the programs. We've read the pages of detailed terms and conditions and applications and how it works and can you stack and how much money can you use. And we've distilled it into these really simple tiles. So this is meant to give you really an overview. You can have a quick read, decide, is this for me? Am I interested? And if you are, you can hit that little yellow get the details button and go and get all of the details, find the application forms, go right to the site. And if you're not, then you have a quick read, you close it up and you move on. So this is pretty much the results page. We've talked about the notifications and the different ways that you can just send yourself a link if you want. Just at the bottom here, just up a little bit higher, even though we didn't ask for it, you'll see that there are some additional results. So I didn't ask for credits, but it's showing me that there's 4 tax credits that I might be interested in, or partnering collaboration opportunities. So we always throw those in there as a bonus, even if you weren't asking for them, just because they might actually be of interest. So that's the Business Benefits Finder in a nutshell. We've had some great feedback about it, but really open if you're using it. If you find something hard to use, let us know. One of the features we have coming out shortly is going to be a search box, because we heard from some folks that you know, maybe I only want to look for a certain kind of program. So for example, maybe I only want to see the programs available to the LGBTQ plus community and not everything else. So you'll be able to just type that in there and pull up only those programs as opposed to everything plus, which is the way it's designed right now. So that's it. So these were little kind of backups that we have in case our live demos fail, so we can skip through those. And I'm going to introduce you next to my colleague. So we have Petra Hudakova from Explorelp, and she's going to talk to you about Canada's intellectual marketplace. Go ahead, Petra.
Thank you so much, Christina. That was a really excellent overview of a very useful tool, a Business Benefits Finder. And I'm going to continue with an overview of another tool that's developed for businesses. This one is developed to help businesses search for available intellectual property that's developed using public funding. Next slide, please. So the platform, Explorelp, is a platform that aims to connect the businesses that are searching for patents or other IP in the near future coming up, also know-how and other forms of intellectual property that are developed using public funding. And the reason for why this platform was developed was because businesses wanted a clear line of sight and better access to the IP and the research expertise that exists in the public sector. So this is the one platform, only one way that is available for the businesses to come and instead of searching through many different websites through universities or federal departments, just come to this one platform and right away be able to search the ecosystem of IP and research expertise in many, many public sector institutions. Next slide, please. So Explorelp was launched in 2019, but it is still being developed. It's in open beta for another year. And that means we are still looking for feedback. We want to hear from the users, from both companies and from institutions that are using it to promote IP. And we are working on many improvements that are coming up very soon. The main focus of the platform is to be useful for businesses. So we want to hear about how useful it is and what's the experience. Right now, it is developed with many different ways to search. As you see on the slide, you can either use the box on the top of the page, which allows searching by key terms, or you can also use visual search at the bottom using through 36 technology categories. And also the visual diagram that actually lets you use the little dots there and search for the categories and the way they are associated with the institutions that develop them. Next slide, please. So just some quick stats of where we are today. Almost 2 years after launch, we have a large database of IP, of inventions, almost 4,000 patent families and patent applications across 36 technology categories or areas. We also have a dedicated COVID-19 category that has 59 inventions from 11 organizations. And right now there's almost 60 organizations that use Explorelp to promote their intellectual property and their research expertise, ranging from federal government, provincial government, as well as academia and research organizations. But it's broader than that even. It's also eligible, any company that it uses public funding to develop IP is eligible to promote their IP on Explorelp. And we are tracking multiple different data that shows the engagement and the usage of the platform. The one that we're looking at the most is the number of contact requests that are received by the public sector holders. So that's a big advantage of Explorelp, that it allows very quick contact to the right person within the institution that can start discussions about the invention you're looking at, whether it's for collaboration or for licensing of that IP, or for using of the research expertise that was used in developing that IP for a new collaboration project. So we're tracking the number of those requests sent, and we are seeing it's over 280 right now. And on the right side, you can see just some of the ways you can search. So this is the technology categories that you can click on, and you can use it as a filter to search through the whole database. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned, Explorelp is mostly developed to be used by businesses to search a database of IP. You can search by using the different filters, as well as organizational filter and the licensing status. And on this slide, you can see what an invention page looks like. Every one of the thousands of patents and patent applications has a page that's dedicated to provide more information about this technology, as well as the licensing status. So whether the license is available or available but has licensees or not available for licensing. And you can also see a lot of other information. And of course, when you click, so another click, please. There is a contact form that you can fill out and just send a request to the institution, to the technology transfer office or similar office that can right away start discussing with you more details about potential collaboration or licensing of this technology. Next slide, please. This is another useful feature for companies that are searching the database but maybe don't find something today that they could use or they would be interesting to learn more about. You can always save your search criteria and set to receive notification emails anytime there is new IP added to the database that meets your criteria. Next slide, please. So just to wrap up, 3 key takeaways for Explorelp for today is it's a tool for businesses that helps you search, find, and connect. So you can search through database of thousands of patents and other forms of IP. You can find easily collaboration and licensing opportunities, and then connect directly with the right person in the institution to start discussing potential collaboration or license. And next slide, please. That is all, but I'm happy to connect and answer any specific questions, do a demo, or just provide more information about the tool. Please feel free to write to our email. We'll be very happy to hear from you. And thank you so much for having me here today.
Great, thank you, Petra. And we will be doing, excuse me, we'll be having some questions after this too. So if you have questions for Petra, you can just put them in the chat and we'll get to them. And any questions that we don't get to today, we're happy to follow up with you directly later as well. I know we only have a short time, so that was great. So next I'm going to welcome my other colleague, Patrick Seguin, who's from Innovative Solutions Canada, and he can tell you all about their program.
Thanks so much, Christina. So hi, everyone. I'm Patrick Seguin, one of many Patrick Seguins apparently today. It's nice to see. And I'm going to tell you guys a little bit about our program, also within the Innovation Canada umbrella, Innovative Solutions Canada. So let's just jump right into it. Thank you. So we actually have an innovation funding program that focuses on funding innovators, and we do it through two distinct streams. So we actually have our challenge stream and our testing stream. So between both of those, we actually have a combined $140 million per year annually in funding, which is actually divided within $100 million for the challenge stream and then $40 million dedicated to the testing stream. So how each of them works, the challenge stream is actually a competitive process to meet specific government needs. So basically other government departments, we partner with about 20 of them. They get to launch challenges through our program, and then it's up to innovators to come up with solutions, ideas to these challenges, and the ones that are selected can actually receive up to 1.15 million in funding to prove their concept and build a prototype. And for the testing stream, it's actually an open competition where innovators submit their innovations with the end goal of hoping to set up a partnership with the Government of Canada or really any potential testing partner to accelerate their innovation to try to bring it to market. This is for late stage prototypes, so technology readiness levels 7 through 9. And I didn't mention, but for the challenge stream, it's for innovations that are a TRL 1 through 6. For those that aren't familiar, just to give an idea, a TRL level 1, you're very early in your R&D phase. And a level 6, you've actually developed a functional prototype, but it's only been tested in an operational environment. Next slide, please. So a deeper dive into the challenge stream, it all starts with an idea. So usually we'll actually host an ideation session, which will bring together some of our internal folks. It'll also bring together industry experts in that field and the sponsor department that's looking to launch a challenge. And basically they'll have discussions around what kind of issues they're looking to come up with solutions to. And then from there, they'll develop an idea for a challenge. We consult our partners at IRAP. They'll make sure that there isn't a commercial solution already in the marketplace. Once all that is confirmed, they define the parameters of the challenge itself. So eligibility, funding, everything like that. And immediately it'll be published on our website and innovators are free to apply. It's all done directly on the site. Usually you have about 2 months to submit a proposal. Next slide, please. So once the evaluation period is done and all the evaluations have been completed, there will be several companies that will be invited into phase 1, which is actually the proof of feasibility. Usually 2 or 3 companies will be invited into this phase, and they'll actually be awarded up to $150,000, and they'll have up to 6 months to develop a proof of feasibility report. So basically answering how they're going to be able to come up with a solution to this challenge. And also worth mentioning in this phase, you can actually outsource 1/3 of that funding. So if you need help developing your business plan or anything like that, you can use some of the money that's allocated towards subcontracting. Next slide, please. And then so the evaluation for the phase 1 reports will be completed, and there'll be usually one company that, we can go back to the phase 2 one. There'll be one company that will be invited into phase 2, which is the actual prototype development. So this company will receive up to $1 million and have 2 years to actually develop a functional prototype. Once again, they can actually outsource some of that funding. In this case, they can outsource 50% of it. Next slide, please. Now this is fairly new, so we had actually added a phase 3 into our challenge stream. Basically how it works, only if it is a contract-based challenge. So we actually have grant-based challenges and contract-based challenges. The grant ones actually, if you go through a grant-based challenge, basically your pathway is done after phase 2, although you've still gotten that validation of working with a government department and received funding. If it's a contract-based one, and if your solution is market ready after you're done phase 2, you can actually sell your innovation directly to any government organization for up to 3 years without further competition. And even if you're not market ready, so beyond a technology readiness level 9, you can actually be eligible for a testing stream and basically accelerate your innovation through there. And then once again, jump back into phase 3 once you're ready and sell to those government departments that are interested. So speaking of the testing stream, we'll jump right into that right now. So how it works, like I mentioned earlier, it's an open competition for innovators. This is a fairly popular part of our program. We've actually launched 2 open calls in the last year and a bit. So one last spring that was actually dedicated to COVID-related innovations. So basically you submit your innovation with the hopes that you'll land a government partner, receive funding, and accelerate your product. So as we mentioned, 2 or 3 calls per year, depending on how many evaluations we receive. Obviously the evaluation period can take quite a while. If I look at the one that we launched last spring, we actually had over 1,000 applications, which was great. Our colleagues at IRAP actually perform these evaluations, and if you are deemed as eligible, you actually fall into our pool of qualified innovations. So you're listed on our website. Now, this does not immediately guarantee funding. From there, federal organizations and really anyone that's interested in testing your innovation, we've actually gotten folks reach out to us from hospitals or academia. Anyone that's really interested in partnering up can contact us. And then from there, if we jump to the next slide, you form your partnership, you determine the parameters of the contract, and once all that is signed, you can immediately start testing. And then from there, it's really a back and forth, receiving feedback with your testing partner to accelerate your innovation. Next slide, please. This is also new to the program. So the gist of it is you can actually receive additional testing and commercial sales if you're an SME going through the testing stream. So you can receive up to 3 additional testing contracts for the same innovation. And you can receive obviously up to $550,000 for non-military innovations and over $1 million for military innovations. And you also get the opportunity to land commercial sales. If you're a large business, academia, or not-for-profit, you can only receive the additional testing. So no commercial sales, but once again, you still get the opportunity to test your innovation with 3 partners. Next slide. So that's all for me. These are several ways that you can contact us. You can email us at solutions@canada.ca if you have any questions. Obviously, if we have time, you can ask them at the end of our session as well. Best way to stay up to date with new funding opportunities is number 1, to follow us on LinkedIn, and number 2, to subscribe to our newsletter. So thank you so much. I'll pass this back to Christina.
Great, thank you. And again, all that information, if you're trying to scribble it down there for the newsletter or the LinkedIn, we can provide all of that if anybody wants to follow up with us, and make sure that you have it in both languages. Thanks, Pat. So next, we're moving on to Superclusters, which is one of the programs under Innovation Canada. And to tell us all about Superclusters, we have Rachel Dean with us.
Thanks, Christina. Hi, everyone. So as Christina mentioned, I'm Rachel Dean. I am the Manager for Engagement and Communications on the Innovation Superclusters Initiative. Donc, tel que Christina a dit, la présentation va être en anglais. Par contre, vous allez remarquer sur les diapos, il y a le français sur les diapos. Puis en même temps, je vous encourage fortement, si vous avez des questions, n'hésitez pas à les poser dans la langue de votre choix. Next slide, please. Okay, so what are superclusters? I think Christina kind of mentioned in her intro that all of Innovation Canada is non-traditional, but Superclusters in particular is also a non-traditional program. in that it's not government investment in a specific firm to do a specific thing. It's actually a more long-term investment in ecosystem development. So really working to create the conditions for success for Canadian industry. So doing things like breaking down silos and trying to foster large-scale collaboration with all of the players in ecosystems, including large firms, small and medium-sized enterprises, post-secondary education institutions, to see if bringing all of those partners around tables can create new solutions, new ways of doing things. So how did we do this? So we actually in 2017, we launched a competitive process, and we asked industry to tell us where Canada already had natural strengths, where we already had a competitive advantage. And basically the point of the program is to double down on those. So we did, to the tune of $950 million over 5 years. One important point with regards to the money that I'll mention is that another focus of the program is co-investment. So for every government dollar, industry is required to match them on the projects. And what I'll tell you is that so far they've exceeded that requirement. Next slide, please. Okay, so I mentioned that we launched a competitive process, and then in 2018, we selected 5 superclusters. So those are, we have a digital supercluster, digital technologies supercluster in BC. We have a protein industries supercluster in the prairies. We have an advanced manufacturing supercluster in Ontario, a supercluster focused on artificial intelligence in Quebec, and an ocean supercluster in Atlantic Canada. So another important point of the program is that we wanted it to be industry-led. So each of those superclusters is led by a not-for-profit. And the not-for-profit and their boards are actually the ones that establish the criteria for which projects they're going to fund. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Actually, the one before. Okay, so while we do want it to be industry-led, I think we did have a couple of things that we wanted, that we put on the table that we wanted as part of this initiative. So among them, we did spend some time to sort of bake in some considerations with regards to intellectual property. So I think as we were trying to get a lot of sometimes unlikely partners around the same tables, we wanted to make sure that not only was everybody's intellectual property protected, but also that wherever possible, collaborative IP could be created that could then generate more innovation. And SMEs. So for small and medium-sized enterprises, we did want to make sure that they could benefit from this initiative. So there's a requirement on every project that there be a small and medium-sized enterprise as a partner. And in fact, it's turned out a lot of projects are led by, over 50% of the projects are led by small and medium-sized enterprises. But basically we wanted to do that so that not only could they access some resources to scale or commercialize some things that they otherwise wouldn't be able to, but also just the partnerships that they created business relationships that sometimes gave them access to new markets or new supply chains. Finally, the other thing that this ecosystem focus kind of allows is to address shortages or to address other issues faced or challenges faced by that ecosystem. So the obvious one is talent. So I think one of the things the superclusters do is try to address talent shortages, either current ones or ones we know we're going to have in the future. And at the same time, do things like address underrepresented groups in those talent pools, just to make sure that the future talent pool that we have for these kind of future focused industries is as diverse and inclusive as it can be. Next slide, please. So this slide is just really to show that I've mentioned there's 5 organizations, 5 not-for-profits across the country that run these superclusters, and they have a city in which they're located. But really the impact, the expectation is the impact of the program is going to be across the country. So what you see here is actually a representation of where the projects are. So you'll see that it's from coast to coast. Next slide, please. So this is just a couple of helpful links to help you out. There's the link to our website if you'd like more information. The other thing I've mentioned is that although I did say the superclusters, there's 5 of them, they have been selected. We're not currently looking for new ones. I think what is important for you to know today is membership does have its privileges. So I would encourage you to go, and you can access it through our website if you like, but go to the website of each individual supercluster to see what kind of options they have with regards to membership. And all of them have at least a free membership option. You do need to be a member to participate on projects. And so that's why I would encourage you to go have a look, but also being a member allows you to access other networks and other resources made available to members of each supercluster. Finally, you also have a list, and I will put a link directly to the project page, but basically on there you'll find descriptions of all 340 announced projects so far to give you a sense of the types of things that they're funding and the types of collaboration that we're talking about. So I think the last piece there is my email address. Please, if you have a question, if you think of a question later, if something occurs to you, please don't hesitate to get in touch, though I know we're going to do some questions at the end. So in the meantime, I'll just say thank you very much. Merci beaucoup. Christina?
Merci, Rachel. Okay, so moving on along here, we have the next colleague who would like to present to you is Nicholas Ignatieff. He's presenting from the Strategic Innovation Fund, or SIF, as some of you might know it. Nicholas.
Thank you very much, Christina. Bonjour à tous. Content d'être là avec mes collègues d'Innovation Canada pour vous parler du Fonds stratégique pour l'innovation. On va présenter des acétates en anglais. N'hésitez pas à poser des questions en français en temps et lieu. So let's go on to the first slide here, Christina. Thanks. So yes, Strategic Innovation Fund, one of the Innovation Canada's program suite, is the one that targets large-scale projects for project contributions, 10 million and above in value of contribution. And I'll say that it's got 2 large components to help people conceive what SIF is about, and they're listed on the right of this slide. Business innovation and growth is where we make contributions to projects with a few small exceptions, we'll say, brought by individual companies. And there are, as we'll see in the next slide, there have been 80 announced to date. So this is where we make a project contribution to a large-scale project. There are like sub-streams of business innovation and growth. Just essentially what needs to be said is we span the technology readiness level spectrum, which was mentioned in an earlier presentation. In business innovation and growth, there will be quite early scale projects and right all the way up to the end of the spectrum at 9, pre-commercialization. In addition, we have, and that's where we do most of our business. We also have a component that supports collaborations and networks. As mentioned on this slide, the component on what we call Stream 4 is by challenge or call for proposals. There have been only 2 so far since SIF was created, and we have a kind of an ongoing intake for national innovation, what we call national innovation ecosystems, Stream 5. I should say that the main, so the business innovation and growth functions on continuous intake all year long. And open for business. The intent, the strategic objectives are listed on the left. I maybe won't read all of that material, but we're trying to promote R&D, facilitate scale up, and also be there to help Canada score some major investment plays, which we've had some success with, retaining IP that matters to Canada, and providing non-dilutive funding. And as well as I mentioned, the collaborations and networks piece that we also support as part of supporting Canadian innovation. So we'll go to the next slide. All right, and this is making the point that we're on a continuum of different instruments of the Government of Canada program suite, helping businesses and specifically business innovation, which stretches over and above Innovation Canada. It includes NRC programming, and I mentioned here our Sustainable Development Technology Canada and the various regional development agencies. We're in that continuum. We're kind of we usually say we're the high end of the food chain because we're just starting with $10 million contributions and heading all the way up into the hundreds of millions. the largest one to date being 415 million. So we do make some 10 million contributions at the minimum, but it's rare. Most of our contributions are greater than 10 million. And because our formula, as mentioned here, is we're cost sharing with private leverage or other government funding and private leveraging, we top out at a theoretical 50%. We don't often go that high. So we're really looking at projects that are above 20 million in total cost value. We're making long-term agreements. That's another feature of SIF's business model. So there's the project phase that we're actually contributing to, and we function by reimbursing costs on a claims basis. But very often there's a long period where we're repaid. Many of our contributions are repayable, or in part or in completely, and that can be a long time. So the length of our contribution agreements can be up to 20 plus years. And in that time, we're trying to anchor benefits for Canada in our contribution agreements, so legal agreements where the companies receiving funding are contributing to do certain things that justify the public investment. I'll just mention before we move to that we've been used by the government to address specific priorities over time. We're open to all sectors and all regions in our continuous intake, but we have been used now since 2017 on some specific priorities. So in this 86 announced projects, I'd be remiss not to mention that there were 10 or 11 COVID projects were announced to support vaccine and therapy clinical trials and biomanufacturing capacity, and we're still kind of in the middle of that. So we've had a number of priority focuses over the years that we've existed. I'll mention now just two of them in the next slide. So the next slide speaks about our funding envelope for innovative IP-rich firms, which we were granted in the fall economic statement not long ago, which is to as is mentioned here, we're looking for opportunities to make investments in firms that control IP that's significant for Canada. We're trying to anchor it. The government's cognizant that the COVID economic slowdown created some particular conditions for these kind of firms that may be attractive to foreign acquisition, and we're trying to kind of make sure they have a Canadian growth path opportunity with our funding. So that's one piece of opportunity to mention, and I'll go to the next slide and speak just briefly about what is kind of our main gig now, since significant injections into the fund in the last few months, notably in the most recent budget, and they sum to $8 billion to be an important part of the government's climate change strategy to reduce GHG emissions. We're calling this broadly the Net Zero Accelerator. It actually it sits on top of it. It isn't distinct from our program structure, which I showed you in the previous slides. It's implemented through the program structure, but we're committed. The government is committed to making this large-scale investment and using SIF to help reach its ambitious targets. We're focusing on three types of targets in this funding: NZA, that is decarbonizing the large emitters of the country, making project contributions that are going to make a significant GHG reduction impact, helping key industrial sectors like auto and aerospace, manufacturing to transform themselves in the direction of decarbonization. And of course, thirdly, to, as we have been doing actually since the beginning, getting behind key enabling technologies, but now with more resources and more focus on supporting clean technologies that advance the GHG agenda. So those are that gives a sense of what's hot at SIF at the moment, and I'll be very glad to answer any questions. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Nicholas. So next up, we're going to have Rajiv Chadha, who is one of the innovation advisors here at Innovation Canada. Je voulais mentionner aussi que les services des conseillers seront disponibles en français aussi. Alors, Rajiv, il se fait sa présentation en anglais, mais on a des conseillers qui sont des francophones si jamais il y a des gens qui veulent parler avec quelqu'un en français. So, Rajiv, take it away.
Thank you, Christina. And hello, everyone. My name is Rajiv Chadha, and I'm Senior Innovation Advisor at Innovation Canada. And I'm going to talk about the Innovation Advisory Services and the Accelerated Growth Services. Next slide, please. So the Advisory and Accelerated Growth Services are the public interface of Innovation Canada. And we can be your go-to person to help you find the other ways government can help your growth. Our team of dedicated innovation advisors can connect you with resources at all levels of innovation ecosystem. And you will see that in next slide, that we are 30 innovation advisors across 5 regions of Canada. And our mission is to build trusted relationship with private sector companies, organizations, programs, and partners in the innovation ecosystem. We often identify high growth companies and use our extensive network experience and expertise in a wide range of industrial sector to grow your innovation and enterprise. In general, you can say that we get everything government can do for your business all at one place. Next slide, please. So you can imagine us like a bridge between government and Canadian businesses, where we help deliver programs and services of government, and we also take your voice to government and the policymakers. Next slide. In terms of our client services, we help you find and access funding, financing, networking, export opportunities, and many more services you can name, and we can deliver or help you deliver that. We can also discuss any of your organizational challenges, because most of us are from private sector and have at least 15 to 20 years of experience working with different levels of private sector organizations. Next slide, please. For the ecosystem, normally what we do, we collect data, we collect ground information, intelligence, and feed them to policymakers and explain them what is working and what is not working on the ground. You can see our target is to, or our long-term target is to double the high growth companies in Canada from 14,000 to 28,000 by year 2025. Next. So structurally, we can connect with you in 4 different ways. As you have seen, we have the business benefit finder. We have a call center where you can call the 1-800 number, and an innovation advisor or program advisor can give you some information or direct you to a senior innovation advisor. We can be reached out for personal calls and meetings and through an expert panel. The 4th level is typically about the accelerated growth services. Next slide, please. So in terms of our services, the accelerated growth services, the senior innovation advisor identifies high growth R&D and export focused firms with revenue more than $5 million, and we nominate them for the AGS services. We assess the core competencies and capabilities of the company, and also identify the growth needs of the AGS client. And then we organize several client meetings with an expert panel, and provide strategic advice to meet current and future challenges. Finally, we create a customized AGS service plan, and that is delivered over a period of 18 to 20 months. Next slide. So you can, the biggest advantage of AGS is that we break the silos between different partners. We share the client information, and we collectively provide expert advice through an expert panel. The expert panel, primarily from our partners, work with the senior innovation advisor to assure accelerated growth of clients' enterprise. The next slide, please. In this slide, you can see an AGS journey typically takes around 18 months from onboarding, nomination, team planning, meetings, and service delivery. In the next slide, you will see there is a short success story. But before that, I would like to explain that that we provide very open service. The innovation advisor is more of client focused rather than government program focused. So our services are for you, and we design and develop our services according to your need, according to your time, and we call them the white glove service for the client. Next slide, please. And this is a client success story from Levven Electronics in Edmonton. And this client was supported by BDC, NRC, IRAP, EDC, and over the period of 3 years, we helped them in their growth trajectory to $160 million company. This company was nominated in 2017, and today they are one of the fastest growing companies in prairies. Last slide. So in a nutshell, our ultimate goal is to support new innovation, industrial and economic growth, and improve the way society lives. Our final goal is benefits to Canada, and its broader meaning is that success of your organization and your people bring the success of your society. Thank you very much. And if you have any question, I'll be available after all these other presentations. Thank you.
Thank you, Rajiv, for that. That's great. So we're just, a couple of our colleagues weren't able to make it from BizPal and Clean Growth Hub. So I would like to tell you a little bit about each of those services as well, because they're very useful. So the first one is BizPal. So the PAL stands for permits and licenses. And in much the way that the business benefits lender helps you pull from all of the available programs to find a list that works for you, BizPal does the same for permits and licenses. So you go through an interactive questionnaire, and then you're able to pull up all of the permits and licenses that your type of business would need for the province that you're in. So this is a nice screenshot. They just recently redid their interface, and it's a lot more user-friendly, and it's a great tool if you're looking for those types of pieces of information. And then Clean Growth Hub is a sort of a joint piece between ISED and NRCan that helps to find folks that are working in the clean tech sector all of the supports that are specific to them. So while we talk about kind of trying to find all the supports available across government, the Clean Growth Hub really gives businesses with that clean technology advice and help to find the supports that they need to grow. And so just before we turn it over to questions, I did also just want to mention that one of the new things that we've launched is a website with some information articles on it that help kind of fill in that middle ground between, okay, I know what the supports are and I'm looking for a little bit of information on maybe how to apply, what are some top tips to when I'm making a government application, or even how to become a member of a supercluster like Rachel was talking about. So you'll see here on your screen, these are a few of the articles that are currently on there, and there's going to be more stuff coming up. So we encourage you to bookmark that one and return and have a look at those articles as well. So that wraps up everybody's presentation. Merci à vous tous. On prend des questions maintenant. We can take questions now if anyone has one. So I'll take a quick look in the chat, and I see that we have a couple of questions. So the first one is for Explorelp. So Petra, this one's coming your way. How can companies stay up to date about new intellectual property pieces that might be a fit for their work?
Sorry, I have a little colleague next to me. So the question was whether how can companies stay up to date about new inventions? Is that right?
In progress. Following and has welcomed thousands into its 12,000 square foot space. You are very welcome to this conversation. Thanks for having me. I'm delighted to be here.
And then
so that's, I think, let's get right into it. You know, I listed off a bit about your bio there.
Ryan, I think that you're unmuted, so we're hearing your background noise there.
Of Age of Union, igniting the change maker, which is a terrific read.
Ryan, I don't know if you can hear. There we go. Perfect. Thank you. Sorry, go ahead, Petra.
I'm so sorry. My kids just came home
and no worries. We have other questions. We'll come back to you. So we have a question for Superclusters. So Rachel, how can companies actually become a part of a supercluster?
I think the easiest way is to consult their websites. They do have like a range of options. Some of them, all of them have at least one free option, which will give you sort of access to the network and some of the resources that they do, including IP information sessions, just to sort of help you figure out how to protect your IP in collaborations. But as well, there's options that start to cost money, and you do have to be a member to be able to participate in one of the projects. So I think it's one of those where it's worth just going to each of their websites and kind of checking out what the options are, but at the same time as well checking out the kind of stuff that they're into, because they do our stuff, but again they're there to generate impacts across the ecosystem. So I think sometimes the projects that they undertake could probably be quite surprising to some folks.
That's great, thanks. Yeah, and they often have cool training. I remember poking around their sites and they have things that they offer, things people can take advantage of, so that's great. We have a question for SIF. Nicholas, how would a company know if their project is a good fit for SIF?
Yes, we do get this question. Well, so first question to ask is it in the right scale? I put a fair amount of emphasis on the slides about scale. Is it at the right scale? And is it like one thing that we discourage is if it's actually just barely over our 10 million, but it's been kind of amped up to get over the threshold. That's not usually a good sign either. So it's got to be sort of like comfortably in the 20 millions and above is a first answer on that. Benefits are we going to see? So the key criteria we're looking for are economic, innovation, and public benefits. And the public meaning could be environmental or social benefits, community, diversity, for example. So are we going to see benefits that are significant enough for beyond just the this is going to be good for our company? Are we going to be able to analyze this as something significant and quote unquote strategic? Those are good starting points, but taking counsel from us, and you'll provide the contact information, I think, is a good one. The Innovation Advisors service is helpful also, as has been mentioned, as a first testing point about whether something could be ready, in quotes, a fit for CIF, ready for CIF, or maybe it's CIF is a medium-term goal and something else would make sense first.
Great. Thank you. Yeah, I think that's a popular question. I feel like every time we do one, you guys are always asked, am I a right fit? Great. So we have a question for Patrick at ISC. So does ISC have any current funding opportunities or open challenges that I could apply to?
Yeah, thanks for the question. So currently we actually have 3 funding opportunities that are open right now, all through our challenge stream. I believe we have 2 RCMP challenges that are actually going to be wrapping up in the next few weeks. Basically, if you visit our website right on the homepage, you'll immediately get access to any of the open funding opportunities. And at a glance, you'll know right away if it's contract or grant based, and know the closing date, if you're eligible to apply, all that. I believe we also have a COVID-19 related funding opportunity as well. So worth checking those out. Also, I'll encourage anyone that's listening to find ways to keep in the loop with our program, because we will most certainly be having an open call for our testing stream, I assume probably this summer. So definitely in the next few months. So worth keeping an eye on that, because that'll be open for probably a few weeks, and innovators can submit their innovations and potentially land government as a client.
Perfect. Okay, I think that's it for the questions that we have. So I'd really like to thank everybody for joining us today. Merci à vous tous. All of our contact information is there. Please don't hesitate to reach out to us if you have any other questions. And I did want to mention that we do have a webinar coming up on June 16th, where we're going to be further exploring some of the supports available to the LGBTQ+ community, as well as hearing from some entrepreneurs in the community and some experts from the Diversity Institute, just all about entrepreneurship in Canada as it relates to LGBTQ+. Thank you very much for joining us. Take care.